want to share with you a couple of slides just to really get us started. And as I said, welcome. This is our first virtual event. Just wanted to give you a little bit of background as to who CDAF are. We're really a slightly different body to the rest of the BAFA special interest groups. We're a representative body, and we're concerned with matters of around management and leadership of university departments of accounting and finance. So historically and at the moment, what you would expect, you'd expect that CDAF's members would be heads of departments of accounting and finance. But we have been opening it up a little bit more broadly to academics within accounting and finance, but that's primarily who it's aimed at. It's a formal committee of the BAFA, the British Accounting and Finance Association, and as you probably know, and you're probably involved in, I know a number of people in the room are involved in the other SIGs. So it's exactly, it's got the same rights, I suppose, and responsibilities as the other BAFA SIGs, but it's very different in that it's the only one of the SIGs that is a membership, or like a membership SIG, where the institutions pay an annual fee of £200 per academic institution, and that's for a 12-month period. So as I say, we are the only SIG that is based on this kind of business model. If you are thinking about joining, and it would be great if, I don't know, if you maybe have a think about your own institutions, if you are not a member. If you're not, maybe it would be something you could speak to your head of department about, and you can send your membership inquiries to Sarah. Sarah's in the room if you want to maybe just wave, Sarah. So this is Sarah's email. And we'll put into the chat as well some details about CDAF in a moment. So just quickly run through the sort of things that we do. So we have our annual conference every May. We also have a number of workshops. We normally have 2 workshops scheduled in the year, one on the first Friday of March and one on the first Friday of November. They're always on that same Friday. But we also, in addition, this year and last year, we've been having extra workshops on account of the pandemic. We also have a research bursary, an annual bursary scheme. And last year, we gave, I think, £11,000 was allocated in that bursary scheme. We haven't done one this year yet because of the pandemic, because what we're finding is that individuals who have applied for the funding are finding it really difficult to spend it. So rather than expect everything to be COVID compliant, we're leaving it just for the moment and seeing how that goes. But as soon as things are up and running again, we will implement that bursary again. In terms of us being a membership body, one of the main things that we also do is that we act as a kind of a conduit, where if someone is looking for an external examiner, then CDAF will enable that to happen. Also, if you're looking for, say, somebody to do an external validation or to sit in a panel or any other activity that's kind of high level at the departmental level, then CDAF can help with that. We also have regular updates from the professional bodies. So what we do is that at every one of our workshops, one of the professional bodies will give a really detailed update on developments that have happened within the professional bodies. So it's a really good way to hear things hot off the press, as it were. We also are a forum for debating issues and sharing good practice. As I say, we do that through the conferences or the conference and the workshop. And it's also quite a good place to network with colleagues. So, you know, it's unfortunate that we can't meet face to face, but if we could, it's a good way of making contacts and sharing best practice. So that's really a wee bit about CDAF itself. Moving on to what we're about today, and the theme for today, as you know, is teaching in a COVID environment. What have we learned, and what about the way forward? And just to remind you of the ugliness of it all, I suppose, if you remember, on the 23rd of March, it's ingrained in my mind, I don't even have to look it up, we all went into the lockdown. And it impacted on the delivery of teaching and assessment for the final semester of last academic year, and it's actually impacted on our delivery of teaching and assessment for the whole of this year. And I thought to myself, well, what were the things that I had to do? Well, we had to respond quickly, so we didn't have any time to sit around and navel gaze. we had to innovate, so we had to do things that we really hadn't much of a clue about, if I'm being honest. I had never prepared I had actually prepared one video, but I didn't really know what I was doing. I didn't know about how to deliver all of this stuff online. It was really quite difficult. And I think you probably all agree, we had to learn a lot to meet the challenges of moving online. So it's actually quite a big challenge. And all of that there, quite often with little in the way of support. Now, we might have got lots of support. There might have been lots of programs and workshops, etc. But quite often I found that they didn't actually tell you what buttons to press to actually share your video, or to finalize your video, or to do all of those little simple things. So to me, there was a lot of information overload there when there could have been more simplicity. And quite often, sorry, I think you will agree that we were all dealing with other pressures, and particularly work-life balance issues, where our bedrooms, our kitchens were taken over, and probably still are. And there was a kind of, the distinction between home and family life was very, very blurred. So that really makes it timely to speak about all of this here, and to kind of reflect back on what exactly our experiences were, etc. So I'm really delighted today that we have 4 brilliant speakers. So we have Professor Alan Sangster, Professor Barbara Flood, Professor Greg Stoner, and Dr. Hillary Lindsay. And Alan, Barbara and Greg, you will probably all know them. And I work with Alan, Barbara and Greg in the accounting education SIG. And what Barbara, Alan and Greg have done, they have written a paper called Insights into Accounting Education in a COVID-19 World. This is an extensive, for those of you who have actually had a look at the paper, you'll see it runs from pages 431 to 562. So it's a rather unusual paper in that it is full of lots of excellent examples of how individual academics throughout the world kind of coped with the pandemic, and the lessons and reflections that they had as a result of that. So what we're going to do, we're going to hear from, first of all, Alan. Now, apologies, Alan has had to, he can't actually be with us first thing in the morning because of a COVID commitment. Unfortunately, he has to, I think he has to go and get the injection. There's something anyway that has to happen, and he will be with us later on. So Alan has prepared a video for us in advance, and he's going to talk to us at a very high level about the insights into that particular article, Sangster et al. 2020. And that will be followed then by questions, and we'll then have a coffee break. And then we'll go into breakout rooms, because I think what we want to do, we want you to get the most out of today, to discuss what are the issues and, you know, what are the implications for you, and is there anything we can do about any of this here, or is it all a fait accompli and we just have to comply and get on with it? We will then hear from Barbara, and Barbara was acting in the Dean's role at DCU during the period of the pandemic, and Barbara will give us her perspective about the COVID challenges from the Dean's perspective. We will then move on to Greg, who will give us the perspective from trying to manage an accounting and finance department and the challenges of that in the context of COVID-19. And last, but by no means least, we have Dr. Hillary Lindsay. For those of you who don't know Hillary, hopefully most of you do know Hillary. Hillary made history in that she was the first academic and the second woman, and this is absolutely fantastic, to become president of ICAEW. And Hillary is also the chair of the ICAEW Academia and Education Community. And Hillary got her PhD. You can maybe talk more about that later, Hillary, I'm sure you will. And we got to know Hillary through the Accounting Education SIG, where you were a regular contributor, Hillary. So welcome all 4 of you to today, and we'll then finalize by given a brief discussion about, well, what are we, you know, what are the kind of the takeaways, as it were, going forward. We will then have our annual general meeting, which will be a fairly short thing, and then we will have closing remarks. So I hope I haven't missed anyone. Just let me just say about Zoom etiquette. So Zoom etiquette, first of all, if you haven't got your name, it would be good if you could do that there. If you could mute whilst not talking, keep your cameras on if possible to kind of make it feel like a bit more like we're in the room together. Raise your hand to ask questions. Hopefully you know how to do that. It would be good if you could, as the discussion is proceeding, if you could put some questions into the chat box rather than waiting until the end, because quite often at the end you've forgotten what you were thinking about. It would be good if you could contribute as well to discussions, because if there's no contribution really, well, I suppose we might as well all go home right away. We are setting up, or we have set up, some breakout rooms, and it would be good, use those to do a bit of networking. And then when you're in the breakout rooms, it would be good if you could maybe nominate somebody who could be a spokesperson to report back to the main room. So that's all I really wanted to say for the moment. So I will stop sharing there. And if we maybe get on then, can you maybe start the video that Alan prepared in advance?